Hey everyone, my name is Lucas Hall, and thank you for joining us tonight. I have a very exciting presentation for you. I know it's on maintenance tracking and maintenance requests, but that is actually something very dear to my heart as a landlord, and I hope that you can relate. So if you're here, hopefully you have rental properties and handle maintenance, and I'm going to teach you some best practices for that. So before we get started, I want to just go through some house rules, really. One is this is going to be anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes of education, and then we're going to dive into questions. And so that is one of the best parts about these webinars that we do here at Cozy and Landlordology, is that you can ask questions to us. So we will do our best to answer them and try to help you along. So that's why we're here. We are recording this currently, and what happens after that is if the recording was successful and it looks good, it will be automatically emailed to you within a day. If we have to polish it up a bit or do something else to it, then maybe it'll take a few more days after that. But you'll get it, and you can look at that if you want to, and go back and listen to the whole thing. So if you do have questions, what makes a really great experience is if you have questions and you don't want to forget about them, go ahead and type them into that Q&A panel, which is on the right-hand side. So you should have this little go-to webinar panel. There's a questions box. If you type that in there, we will get those, and if they're applicable to something that we're talking about right then and there and it makes sense, we will try to answer that. But if not, it'll just happen at the end with all the questions, and we will answer them in the order in which they are received. So get them in early so that we can answer those first. All right, so let's move on. I have multiple screens here, so bear with me, but we are good to go. So I see a lot of people joining even right now. Thank you all for attending. Alex and Anastasia, thank you for attending. Carlos, hey man. A lot of people I recognize from just Landlordology and Cozy and people I've talked to in the past. We have over 200 people now right now, and more people rolling in. So I'm just going to get going. I might backtrack a little bit if I see that a lot more people join in, but we're going to get rolling. I want to be respectful of your time. So next, why we're here. So this is a webinar. It's completely free. We're not charging for this, but it is about how to track maintenance requests like a pro. So as you know, if you have a rental property, maintenance requests are a huge deal, right? You need to be able to successfully receive them and take action on those and treat your tenants like customers, and so you're trying to make them happy and get things fixed. So it can be quite a headache, and to be honest, I think maintenance is probably one of the biggest things on why landlords quit and why they sell their rental property. They just don't want to deal with the headache. But there are ways to make it easier. There are ways to make it so that you don't have a headache with this, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So who am I? Why are we here? Why should you care? This is a presentation by Cozy. I am an employee of Cozy. I'm head of industry relations. I am a landlord of over 11 years. I have 5 properties in 3 states. And I founded a little website called Landlordology. So I put my heart and soul and even some blood, sweat, and tears into that. And it is one of the dominant sites on the internet to teach landlords how to be better. So we'll get into more information about all of that. But I also want to introduce 2 of my coworkers here who are also helping me run the presentation. First and foremost, we have Miss Maggie Cooper.
Hi everyone, I'm Maggie Cooper, and I am Head of Customer Success at Cozy. So I work primarily with Cozy's new customers to help them get started with the tool. I'm based in Portland, Oregon, where Cozy is, and I'm actually a small landlord myself. I have 2 units, so I'm a big fan of Cozy, and I really love helping people get started with the tool. We also host general demos if you are curious about how to use Cozy in its complete form. And Jordan, our other co-host, and I host those, and those are also on Wednesdays. So I'm really happy to be here, and I'll be helping out with questions.
And next we have Jordan Bradley. Jordan, why don't you say some things about yourself?
Hey everyone, I'm Jordan Bradley from the support team here at Cozy. If you emailed into us, it's likely that I've probably spoken with you at some point. I'm originally from LA. I've been in Portland here now for just about 2 years. I've pretty much been a renter for most of my adult life, so questions and concerns from landlords and tenants are something that are very personal to me and very important. So I'm really happy to be here to help tonight, and I really hope everyone enjoys the presentation.
Great, thank you. All right, so what is Cozy? Why, hopefully you should know a little bit about it because you probably received some emails. But if you aren't and you're new to this and you came through this through Landlordology or another means, Cozy is modern property management software. So we make tools to help landlords and property managers succeed, and it's amazing. I use it for my own properties. I manage them from 3,000 miles away using Cozy and not having to hire a property manager, which is a bold statement, but it works great. It's also used by people who live near their properties too, not just me. So you are in good company if you use Cozy already, and I know a lot of you do. Currently we have about 180,000 landlords who are currently using Cozy to collect rent, screen tenants, do other things, among about 350,000 tenants, and then we process about $1 billion in rent, or I should say over $1 billion in rent a year. But we're fast growing. We do take on about 10,000 new landlords a month. At least that's our current pace, and that tends to grow every month. So it's an exciting time, and we're doing some really cool things. So what is it that we do, right? So first and foremost, we kind of take you through the whole landlord lifecycle. We give you the tools you need to succeed with your rental properties, how to automate those, how to make them easy. So first and foremost, what we do is we'll start in the beginning, and if you have a property that you need to list or find a tenant for, we'll help you with that marketing and that listing of that property to various sites and on Cozy, and then you can easily share that with anyone, and they can apply right there. It's super easy, and they apply online. In fact, I have tenants who do apply with their phone every single time. Every time I have a listing, they sometimes will see the property, walk out to the car, fill out the application, and as they're driving away, I've got an email with, basically everything I need to review them. So tenants can apply online. You can screen them with credit reports and background checks. And then if you find somebody you like and want them to move into your property, then you can go ahead and get them set up with online rent payments. That's one of our core features. They can pay rent with a bank account, with a credit card, with a debit card, with prepaid card, and everything about that is really easy to use for both parties. Then once you have somebody in there and you're handling maintenance and expenses, we'll help you track that too. So this particular webinar is about just the maintenance aspect of it, but as a whole, you can handle all those repairs, and then you can track the expenses that you incur for each of your properties, so that you have something nice and easy to read during tax time when you're trying to fill out your Schedule E, or when you have something that you need to give to your accountant to do your taxes for you. It's painfully simple. And then last, we do education. So that's part of this. We're here at a webinar. It's fun. I actually really enjoy doing these and helping people learn how to be better and more efficient. That's why we're here. So we do online education. We have Landlordology. We have webinars. We have podcasts, all these other things. So this website, Landlordology, is what I created years and years ago, but has since become part of Cozy. So it is our educational platform. It has a lot of really great resources, especially the state law guides that are there. They're just really definitive, really useful. You can go see if what you're obligated to do according to your state statutes, and among other things. But give it a shot. Look out. Go there. Look out for look for something whatever you're having trouble with. It's probably in there. Just do a search for expenses or maintenance or whatever, and there's a lot of articles that'll help. So moving forward, all of that is 100% free. So you can do all of that as a landlord, and you can track and handle your tenants and your maintenance and your expenses and your applications and your listings and rent. All of that is free. So we make money, and this is always the next question, right? We do make money. We make money on the credit report and background check, but the tenant also pays for that. So you don't have to pay for anything. Even the transaction fees are null. They don't pay for that. You don't pay for that. If a tenant does pay with a credit card or a credit card for rent, they do pay a transaction fee, but that's just Visa and MasterCard not choosing to waive their fee. But everything else, even if they pay rent with a bank account, it's completely free. So free for you always, and then there's just minor fees for the tenant if they participate in some of those things. So it's really a good experience. Plus, if you do order a background check or a credit report from a tenant, they get a copy of that as well. So they're actually getting something for their money. Moving on, let's let's talk about some basic tips. So let's set the stage for maintenance, right? That's why we're here. So tips for basic maintenance success with your rental properties. As we discussed, it's truly a headache. First and foremost, you need to be very clear in your lease about what the responsibilities of you and your tenant. So if you expect your tenant to mow the grass, like, you need to make sure you say that. It's not common knowledge. And I think you need to be, a very big outline or a very big section in your lease on this. So if you don't have that, think about what you want to do, and then add that in as an addendum or add that into your next lease built into the major part of the contract. Because once it's in the contract, then it's pretty much set in stone. So 2, empower your tenants to make the place a home. So I always tell my tenants this. It's like they ask basic things like, hey, can I paint? Well, that's a whole nother conversation, but like generally speaking, I want to tell them like, well, hey, listen, you need to be respectful and keep the place nice, and I want you to make it your home. So nothing is irreversible. I shouldn't say nothing, but most things aren't irreversible, and they will pay for any damages they cause, but you want them to embrace the fact that it's a home and not just your place. Because once they feel like it's their home, then they will actually take steps to maintain it the best they can. And if there's something they don't feel comfortable doing or they think you should do, then they will let you know quickly, right? Because people protect their home, but people don't protect rental properties. They don't protect somebody else's property. So you want them to feel like it's theirs. That's so key. So that emotional connection. If they do actually submit a maintenance request or tell you about something, please respond quickly. That solves a lot of problems. So first, I always get back to them, hopefully within an hour. So I'm not solving the problem. I'm just acknowledging that they sent something, right? I'm like, hey, thanks a lot. Like, I'll get back to you. That's all you have to do. And if you can do that with a smile, you're going to make them really, really happy. So first and foremost, respond quickly, but then try, if there's something you can do quickly to solve the problem, do that too. A lot of times it's just informing them how to operate the thermostat. Like, maybe that's it. Other times the thermostat might be broken. So, do what you can to respond quickly, and then follow up, hopefully, with repairs or a plan of action within 24 hours or so. Number 4, schedule annual maintenance. What I do, if for things like gutter cleaning, or things where I need to sign up for like maybe a lawn mowing contract with a company, I will set that in as a calendar invite. Like, I will just say, at the 1st of September every year, I need to go ahead and schedule like a heating contract, right? So I'll do that. Set it up, make it automatic, make it an annual thing, an annual invite that alerts you every year, and you won't forget, right? But more on a bigger picture here, go Google a life expectancy chart, specifically for maintenance or for rental properties, not for animals or people or whatever, but like a life expectancy chart for appliances specifically. So for the big ticket items like your roof, your water heater, your floors even, there's things that they wear out. You need to take care of them, and then you need to replace them eventually, especially most of the kitchen appliances. So know when you bought them, or know how old they are at least, and most of those things will have a sticker on them somewhere. The roof maybe not, but your water heater should have something on there. And then put that in a spreadsheet, and you can go Google a template. I think even Google Spreadsheets or Google Sheets has a number of life expectancy charts where you can just copy that template, right? And then you'll know for years out, like, when you're going to have to replace something. So it's really helpful to know that, oh, the water heater is probably a 10-year water heater, so I probably need to replace this, in the next 3 years. And then you can allocate money to prepare for that, so you don't get surprised by these massive capital expenses. So I'm not going to touch on it too much, but you generally want to have 3 to 6 months worth of savings in a reserve account for stuff like that. So build up your rental income and then set that aside. I think that's just wise finances. Okay, moving on. It's stuck. Bear with me. There we go. Okay, so what next, right? So we talked about schedules, we talked about life expectancy charts, we've talked about pushing off some of those responsibilities to your tenant in the lease. But when something does happen, you have to take care of it, especially if it's your responsibility. and you are ultimately responsible for ensuring habitability. So even if there was something the tenant didn't do, you are actually officially on the hook when it comes to habitability and making sure that property is inhabitable. But what do? Do you fix it yourself, or do you hire a pro? So let's talk about that. So here are my general ideas. Now, these are my opinions, and I've been a landlord for a number of years, so I've tried to do a lot of stuff myself to save money. Now, that doesn't always work out well, but for the majority of the time, it does, and there's things you can do to save a lot of money. So when to do it yourself. Here are some general rules. It's going to be different for everybody, but this is what I like to say. If you live within 20 minutes of the property, then you can probably do it yourself, or at least you can do maintenance yourself, because then you can go over, you can fix that running toilet, you can deal with a light switch, whatever you need to do, and it's not like a all-day ordeal. I had actually my father had a property he lived near DC, it was in Baltimore, and he would have to travel many hours to get there sometimes, and he'd spend all day and then travel back, and it became quite a hassle because it was pretty far away. And then if you feel like you're handy, now I think we all kind of have this impression of ourselves when it comes to fixing stuff. Some of us full on know, whenever I touch the screwdriver, like I'm going to break something, and other people have a curiosity, right? So if you do have a curiosity to learn how to be handy, or you know your way around a tool shed, you need to be honest with yourself about that. And if you want to embrace it, then I think it's a good thing to try it, right? So 3, do you have time? Do you have 20 kids? Well, I shouldn't say 20 kids, but if you have 10 kids, which I know a few people who do, you may not want to be the guy fixing stuff, right? Because you have other more important responsibilities. But if you don't have a lot of time, or you don't think you have enough time to try it, then don't, because it's just going to end badly. But if you have that time, go for it. Then if you want or need to save money. So some people just don't have the profit to hire out a lot of professionals. I mean, I hired Mr. Plumber a couple of years ago now, and all he did was snake a drain for 10 minutes, and the bill was $499. It was ridiculous, and I know that guy didn't have any more skill than I did. He just had the right tools. So let's figure out how to fix that, and I could buy out an auger for $499 and do it myself forever. Now, maybe I don't want to, but that's the point. Like, how can you save money? If you don't have a profitable rental portfolio, then you may need to figure out ways to cut costs. And then number 5, one of the best ways for you to learn, if you have that desire, Home Depot has a rack of books at every, near the checkout, right? Every Home Depot has this. Home Depot produces some amazing books that actually have a lot of pictures, and I'm sure Lowe's has the same thing too. The pictures are great, they're really easy to understand, and for most basic tasks, it's perfect. It's all you need. Like, you can lay that thing out and you can fix a broken light switch, and you're done. Now, I think they're worth the investment. And then if you don't even want to buy a book, or you're a digital person, YouTube is a wealth of resource. Now, you have to be careful about who you're watching, because it doesn't mean they know any more than you, but it's a really good resource to explore and learn. So when do you hire a pro? Like, how do you know, really, when it's over your head? Because if you're just starting, you don't know what you don't know. So the general rules are, if you have electrical issues, right? Now, electrical is a little more challenging than most repairs, but if you have something that needs replacing, or the wall is sparking, it's probably better to hire an electrician. When there are broken pipes, that's a huge deal. Like, I've replaced multiple faucets, multiple toilets, multiple shower cartridges, things like that. All that stuff is pretty easy, and actually the instructions that come with those manuals tell you how to do it. But if I have a broken pipe or a drippy joint or something, like, I really don't, I can, but I don't want to mess with soldering. And anything that deals with high voltage electricity, anything that deals with an open flame, or things that spark or create a luminescent light that actually burns my retina, I just don't want to do that. So I choose to hire those out. Any kind of roof repairs, I have a daughter that I want to see get married and graduate and live her life, and I don't want to fall off a roof before that happens. So I usually don't do any sort of roofing myself. Anything that requires a certification or a license is a big deal. So there are county rules and county ordinances and license requirements that say that this type of thing should be done by a licensed professional. I always think you should hire a licensed professional if it's something that you don't want to do or can't do. But some things like heavy upping an electrical panel, like that's just way out of my league, and I really want someone who knows what they're doing. So big things like that, really, you should make sure that they have a certified certification or a license. And then number 5, if you feel like it's unsafe, don't do it, because it's just not worth the risk, right? Hire somebody out, it's fine. It's not gonna hurt you to hire somebody out, but it might hurt you if you try it yourself. Moving on, if you want to hire somebody, here's what you can do. So I always recommend you hire a little black book of contractors. Now, what I mean by that is you should have a list. It can be a spreadsheet. It can be a literal little black book, and you basically keep record of who you've worked with and who you've paid. Now, you can probably go back through receipts and invoices and figure that out and have records of who was great, who you can count on, who you can't. And eventually, the goal is that you have a list of handymen or plumbers, electricians that you know you can count on, and you trust them to go on your property alone, even if you need to, or if they need to. Because if the basement's flooding, like, you might need to send somebody over there at midnight just in case, just to deal with it, and you need to be able to trust them. But if you don't have something like that, then you can use these sources. So these are some of my favorite. I've used them all at one time or another. There's companies like Angie's List, which I think is probably the most well-known. A company called Task Easy, which does mostly lawn care. Home Advisor, which is huge. Angie's List and Home Advisor are now one company, so they still are different websites, but they're one company. And then Home Depot acquired a company called Red Beacon, which was really popular, especially on the West Coast, but now that's called Home Depot Pro Referral. And then another company called Talk Local, which is kind of neat because it has this app that instantly connects you with them. So that's pretty cool. So check these out. As you start to work with these companies and you start to work with contractors, it'll be very clear who the winners are. And if you find somebody you like, then just stick with them. Don't go through Home Advisor next time. Go straight to that person, and you'll build a rapport and a relationship, and they'll treat you right, and they'll charge you less, and it'll work out. Hopefully you'll build that list up. So moving on, this is the most important thing. So if you take away one thing out of this entire webinar, I want you to know that maintenance for your properties is truly all about communication. You're a liaison between the contractor and the tenants, or you're trying to make the tenants happy. It's all about communication. The more you communicate and the more transparent you are, the easier it's going to be. So we surveyed a number of people. A lot of you filled that out as you signed up, and we surveyed a number of Cozy customers as well. And we asked them, how do you currently track maintenance for us? What's the mechanism in which you receive these? And hands down, the winner was text messaging. So that shouldn't surprise anyone. I receive most of my text messages, or have in the past, through text messaging. And it's just, the next generation of tenants is just comfortable with it. So not a surprise. People could answer more than one. So between text and email, they were the two winners. Phone call was next, just because a lot of things require a conversation over the phone. But other than that, the three other ones, when we threw carrier pigeon in there just as a joke, but some people voted for it. In person, written notes, all that stuff didn't hold a light to those. So moving on, what are the real challenges, right? So these are how we're using it. These are what we're doing. But what does that really mean? Why is that difficult? Well, if you're receiving maintenance requests through text messages, like most people are, you don't really have an official record. Like, yeah, you've got that text message, but most people don't realize that your iPhone or your Android goes through and deletes text messages after 90 days or 120 days or whatever it is that you've got it set for. Some people have it at 30 days. So imagine, you're trying to produce this official record and you find out your phone's deleted it. Two, it's also hard to find. I don't know if you've ever tried to cycle through your text messages from like a month ago, and you're sitting there and scrolling forever and ever and ever, and it's hard to explain. Two, there's no central location for all requests. Now, if you ever had to produce that record or cycle through just all the records and find them, you wouldn't be able to. So they're scattered over multiple text messages or multiple emails or both, or phone calls. I mean, you don't have a record of that even because you can't document it. So not having that central location can be very complicated for when you're trying to handle things. I know personally with having big projects. So number 3, it's easy to forget or lose. That's a no-brainer. And then 4, tenants aren't really sure how to communicate with you. If you tell them, hey, contact me, they're like, okay, well, what does that mean? Does that mean Facebook Messenger? Can I Skype them? Can I send a text message? Can I email? Can I send a carrier pigeon? They're not quite sure. So I do recommend that you specify very clearly in your lease what you want them to do for maintenance and generally how to contact you. So this is what I say. Set some rules. Set the precedence of what you want them to do. Do that in the lease. Do that in a separate piece of paper. Also, do that in an email. Whatever it is, make sure they understand. And then 2, set up an official channel to communicate. So tell them specifically, I want you to do this in this scenario. Make it super easy. That's a no-brainer. If we're all creatures of comfort. If it's too hard to do, then people aren't going to do it. So I specifically hate things where my tenants are forced to open up some other third party that they've never used ever in their life, and they're never going to use it again except for that one instance. That's just ridiculous. 4, be transparent. Make sure that you don't hide anything from them. I mean, you've got your private records, but make sure that you're being open and transparent about what's happening with that maintenance repair so that they feel like you're actually working on it. The worst thing is when you go radio silent and they haven't heard from you in weeks and they think he's not doing anything. So here are my rules. I tell my tenants, if it's a life-threatening emergency, call 911. Don't even bother with me at that moment, just call 911. And I've had instances where tenants smell gas and they call me and I'm like, no, you need to call 911 right now and get the fire department out there to make sure that the place isn't going to blow up, right? And it's usually they just leave the oven on or something, and but it's worth dealing with the emergency services. 2, if there is property damage, like a basement is flooding or there's an open leak or the roof is collapsing, right? Anything like that. Hopefully you never get to that point, but if it's happening like that, please call me or text me immediately. I don't really care what time it is, because if the basement is flooding, I'd like to know at 1 in the morning. I really would, so I can handle it. I don't want to wait 6 hours and then I've got 2 feet of water in my basement, right? So call me, text me immediately, and I actually tell my tenants, use your good judgment, right? A lot of landlords say, oh, I don't want to get calls about toilets, clogged toilets at midnight, and I'll be honest with you, in 11 years, I've never had that. It doesn't matter. Tenants are smart. They're only gonna call you when they need you, and they're gonna look at the toilet and say, I don't really need to call my landlord at midnight. So that's, some people don't give them enough credit. And then I tell my tenants, for everything else, for all other maintenance items, just file a ticket in Cozy. It's real easy, and that way it's all very transparent. So let's move on with that. So online maintenance requests and expense tracking. So let's talk about that. So a lot of you received an email announcement recently about Cozy having 2 new features, expense tracking and maintenance requests, and I'll show you what I do with my tenants. So it's real easy, operates on a phone. Oops, let's go. So what we're going to do next is I'm actually just going to show it to you. I'm going to work with my coworkers here, Maggie specifically, and we're going to actually demo that for you. So if you have a Cozy account, and if you don't, you can sign up at just cozy.co/signup, or just cozy.co. You can see it there on the homepage, and you can create an account. As you can see, these are some example properties. If you can do a lot of stuff with Cozy, but one in particular is maintenance. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on this property, or for 944 Mara, I'm going to create a new request. And if I were a landlord, and let's say my tenant wants to, let's do this actually. My tenant wants to submit a maintenance request. So I think it'd probably be better if we actually did this from the tenant's perspective. So let's do this. Maggie, how are you feeling right now? Let's see if we can share screens with you. We're going to change it up and get a little fancy here.
Yeah, love to. Let's see.
All right, Maggie, can I transfer you over now?
Please do.
All right. Go for it.
All right.
Perfect.
Okay, so you should see my screen. This is a tenant view. So when your tenant logs in, they're first going to be brought to their payments portal. We decided to prioritize that because the majority of tenants, that's what they're going to be logging in to do in Cozy, is set up payments. But when it's time to submit maintenance requests, all you'll need to do, bear with me here, is go into this maintenance button here, and this is on the tenant side of things. They're going to very easily click, apologies, new request, and then all they'll need to do is just fill out the title. So let's say leaking faucet in kitchen, and a message to you. So let's say I'm Lucas's tenant. Hey Lucas, the sink is dripping in the kitchen. Can you come take a look? I can also add any photos, videos, or other files. So if I wanted to take a quick photo, attach it here on my phone. Cozy is totally mobile compatible, so your tenants can actually, from their phone, log into Cozy, send this request, add a photo or video, attach it here, and then you'll get an email notification. And Lucas will be showing that landlord process here in just a little bit. So I can add any files if I'd like, including PDFs, and then I'll click request, and that will send Lucas a message, and it will also start this correspondence in my Cozy account. And you'll see from Lucas's point of view that he'll have a very similar view of the landlord side of things. So I'm going to pass it back to you, Lucas.
Okay. All right. Do you guys see that? Perfect. Okay, so while we were transferring the screen back to me, her ticket just came through. So this leaking faucet in kitchen is exactly what she just filled out. And if I click on that, I can see Willa submitted this notification. So I get this. What happens behind the scenes is that the landlord and all roommates get notification of this through an email. So if they also happen to be logging into their Cozy account, they'll see it too, but most people don't live inside their account. So they get an email right away, and then they can click on that, and it takes them right here. And so I get this. It's easy. I can forward that email on, but I'm going to do this, and I'm going to say, hey, thanks, Willa. I'll stop by tomorrow at 4. And then if I want to, I could submit videos or photos, which is, pretty cool. I don't know if a video of a dripping sink is that interesting, but I did have an instance where my tenant submitted a video of a dripping sink, and it was weird because it was actually spraying up the top, and so I couldn't understand how that was happening until he showed me the video, and I realized very quickly it was just a little knob. So I was able to assess the video and actually respond to him very quickly and say, get a screwdriver and just tighten that bolt and you're good. And that's exactly what he did, and it was fine. I didn't even have to go over there, didn't have to deal with it. It was really easy. So I can do this. I can just say add a comment, and you can see here all these tenants that are on the right-hand side get notified as well, so they are kept in the loop. So any of those tenants can also comment on it, and if, let's say I'm going to pass it, well, actually I won't pass it back, I'll hold it. So if Maggie is now getting this notification, and she or one of her other roommates maybe responds and says something like, I'm not available at 4, but can you come at 5? Or like, hey, that's great, thanks a lot. Whatever it is, any of them can respond. Any of them can continue this conversation. So let me refresh my screen and see what we got. Okay, not yet. So well, the other thing I can show you is, well, let's do this first. Okay. So what else I can do here is that I can actually leave a private note for myself. So let's say there was a big deal with the plumbing, right? And I needed to hire out somebody. I could check this box, and as you can see right there, it goes from add a comment to private note, and I can say, I called ABC Plumbing, and they wanted $500, or Mr. Plumber wanted $200, and then I could even attach all of their estimates too. and that wouldn't get shared either. So I can do all that. I can create these private notes for myself so that as I'm processing the maintenance ticket, I can create a record of all of those estimates, all of those notes, all those pictures, and I can keep it in here, and only the things that I want to share with my tenants get shared. So they won't see any of that. So I'm going to go ahead and add that private note, and you can see here it says hidden from tenants. So, oh, here we go. Yeah, as I was doing that, the other notification came through and said thanks. So if I end up, needing to give proper notice, and I say, okay, oops, sorry, it wasn't proper notice. I'm coming over Friday, or let's say Saturday, because that's more than 24 hours. Then that's all I need to do. So you can use this to give proper notice as well. It's pretty easy. Now, what's really cool about it is that I can handle and track these things. So yeah, I've got these three. Let's say this one, for example. I can close this request. If I'm all done with it, I can just close it down. Yes, close this request. And then I go back to my maintenance tab, and I've only got three, and I've got one here. So I never lose them. You never can quite delete them because they are records for you, but you can certainly archive them and close them so that you don't have to see them anymore. Now, moving on, let's say if I wanted to create an expense from this. Let's say that I did hire ABC or Mr. Plumber, because that's cheaper. Mr. Plumber, it was $200. I could create an expense right here. There's a little quick link to it. And what it does is it then opens up this expense form with some of the information filled out already. So for example, I could call this as Mr. Plumber, and then the date of payment was today. If I had a receipt, I could just add that here and uploads it and keeps it. And then it already knows what property it's for because it came from the maintenance ticket. The $200 I put in was just in the note section, so it doesn't know it automatically. $200. It assumes, because it's a maintenance item, that it falls under the repair category, and these categories are actually specified by the IRS. They match the Schedule E on your 1040 IRS form perfectly, so it makes it real easy for tax time. But you can change that if you want to, but most of the time it'll be repairs. And then the title of that maintenance ticket, it actually gets put in the description, and I can add to it. I could call this broken lever or something. And then if I had multiple items, I could split those across multiple receipts. And then hit save, and voila, I'm now able to track these in the expenses category, expenses section, and I'm able to show them. Here I can sort them by property, I can sort them by category. It's just a really easy way to track everything. So in this example here, I've got a Home Depot receipt, and you can actually go and you can see the actual receipt. You can open that up. It's pretty nice. Now, what I also want to show you is how to get that information out. So if I go and I look at here, oops. Okay, so this is a sample report. This is one of the reports you can get from Cozy, and it's really easy. It's in the report section. I'll show you what that looks like real quick. If you just click on export data, on the left-hand side here, you can then choose payments or expenses, and you can pick which properties or all properties or whatever. And part of that massive data export, you can get that in a spreadsheet, but you'll also get this document, which what it does is it summarizes all of your operating expenses. I shouldn't say operating. Your one-time expenses, the ones you can fully deduct. And so you have things here. These are the categories for the IRS 1040 Schedule E. So you could take this one document, hand it off to your accountant, or use it when you're working through TurboTax or something to do your own taxes, and you'll have all the summary information that you need. You can also download all of the receipts in image format, and you can pass those off to an auditor if you need to. If you do get audited, you have all the receipts already in Cozy. You can get those out and hand them off. It's real easy, and it just makes it simple. Like, I can't tell you how many years I spent hours around tax time trying to summarize these categories because they were spread out and they were tracked under weird category names and whatever with other different systems, but this is super easy. So that's what I love most about the expense tracking tool. Now, if you want to do something like what I did here, where I have some tenants where I actually created a maintenance request where I just said, hey guys, I would love to, I would love to have you use maintenance tracking for Cozy, or with Cozy. That's going to be my new way of doing it. I can give you that. So that language, it's right here. So I have a document. It's just got a sample template that you can use and customize all you want. If you want to download that or this expense tracking sample, then you can do that in the right-hand side. You have a GoToWebinar control panel there that has a section called Handouts, and it says Handouts 2 of 5. So go check that out. It's on the right-hand side. You can download those. So either click on the link or right-click and save as. Depends on what type of computer you're using, but you can download those and use that template to notify your tenants. And so you can open up that ticket, see if they respond, and just close it out when you're ready. So I think that's it for now. So let me open up the other thing here. There it is. Perfect. Okay. So I gave you those 2 samples, and I think we covered everything. So moving on. Great. We're making great time. Let's go into Q&A. I saw a lot of questions coming through, and feel free to take this time right now to ask any question you want in the question panel. If it's a part of if you want to ask about Cozy and how things work, that's great. If you want to ask about general maintenance and how to keep track of that, that's fine too. So we'll do our best to answer all of your questions. So Maggie and Jordan, do you want to go ahead and start feeding us questions?
Yeah, I would love to. All right. First question, it goes back to the beginning when you were talking about making your tenants feel at home. So that's great and all. How do you do it?
Let me make sure I get the mic. Okay, cool. So how do you make your tenants feel at home? So first and foremost, you just really want to make them feel welcome. So the best way to do that from the get-go is just to give them a small welcome package. So I like to personally, well, I should preface this, I used to give them like pizza and Target gift cards and all that, and it just, it really didn't go over well. Like, no one really wants pizza, and, well, let's just say it's moving day. Yeah, pizza's easy, but it's nice, you're sweaty. What you really need is a shower, right? So what I would do is I would create what I call my $10 welcome packet, and I would just buy like an individual roll of paper towels that's like wrapped up in the plastic. I'd buy an individual roll of toilet paper. I'd buy a little bar of hotel soap for $1 at Target or the grocery store, and then a shower liner. So I would do those things, and I would just leave them there, like on the counter or in the bathroom. And I never actually started receiving thank yous until I started giving out toilet paper. Like, it was the weirdest thing. So tenants would move in, and they would not realize that most showers don't come with shower curtains or liners, and I would just give them that cheap curtain that you get at or the liner that you get at the dollar store. Like, really easy, nothing special. But it enabled them to take showers. Like, they're moving, they're sweaty, they want soap, they want shower, they want toilet paper. Like, they want that stuff. And if I can meet that need, they think, oh, this is actually a landlord who knows the drill, and he knows what I really need instead of just pizza. Like, so that's what I would do to make them feel welcome. That always hit it off on the right foot, and it was only like $10. Other than that, open communication is key to making them feel warm and welcome. If they feel like they can reach you, then they will be respectful. And now that's not always true, but I think most of the time, in my experience, it is. If you treat them like customers and you treat them with respect, they will do the same. Great question. Thank you.
Yeah, great answer. That's such a good idea. All right, next question is from Daryl. He asks, do you support the ability for property managers to independently input maintenance requests on behalf of tenants?
Yes, good question. So let me pull that open right now. So if I go back to our maintenance, so here, this is the landlord view. So what you're seeing right now is the landlord view, and you can add a new request at any time. So if I wanted to create a new request at this property with these tenants, I can go in, and it looks very similar to the tenant view. So I would just type in whatever I wanted, and then I could add in that, and then I could add videos, and this is very common. So most of the time, if you're not fully using the system, tenants will still text you, and tenants will call you, and they will stop by your office or whatever, and you need to be able to get that in there. So yes, you can do that. It just kicks it off, and it notifies everybody, and then you can have that discussion there. Even if your tenants don't participate in that process or they choose not to respond at all, at least you have it documented. So that's the best way to do it.
All right. Next question. We've had a few people ask, is there a way to create a maintenance request for an entire property, not just a single unit?
Yes. So currently the way it works in Cozy is that we want you to be able to communicate with a specific group of tenants. So it's done at the unit level. So you can, when you have a maintenance request, it's designed to be a communication tool rather than just a tracker for you. Now, it's something that we've considered, but at least for this V1, you have to at least assign a maintenance request to a particular unit. And if your tenants fill it out anyway, if they're the ones initiating it, then it's going to be assigned to that unit in the first place. But there are common scenarios where you want to track the maintenance of the gutters for the whole building, for the apartment building. And for that, you would either have to assign it to a single unit or just not put it in Cozy. So first and foremost, it's a communication tool about maintenance rather than just your own personal spreadsheet. So something we're definitely considering adding in the future.
Thank you. All right, next question is from Dante. Will there ever be a feature to share these requests with someone else, like a handyman?
Dante, I think, let's see. I think, let's go to here. Okay.
I think you're good.
Okay, great, perfect. So yes, hey Dante, what's up, man? So yes, so V1 version 1 of this is just between landlord and tenant. We are actively actually building that right now so that you will have a little share link. You can share any request with any person, any email address, or anybody else. So that that's actually one of the big requirements is like, hey, I just want to be able to offload this to my handyman and send him over. So the goal is that you get this request, you kind of acknowledge its legitimacy, and then you can assign that to your handyman or a plumber or whatever if you want. So it's really just sharing a link with them. They can click on the link, see the request, see the pictures and the video, and try to decipher what's going on, and then they can even figure out how to time to get over there and coordinate that. So yes, absolutely, that is on the roadmap, and that is version 2, which we're working on right now. So great question, thank you.
All right, here's a usage question. Tam asks, can I track maintenance that I perform as part of regular maintenance, like not requested from tenants or things that are scheduled in advance? Gotcha.
So it kind of goes back to the question 2 questions ago where, yes, it's not maintenance. This is a maintenance request tool, so it's not necessarily a maintenance tracking tool for you to track things as you would normally in a spreadsheet. So yes, we will be looking into building that so that you don't necessarily have to assign a property or even a unit to it potentially, but for now it's really to communicate those things with your tenants. So if you have something that has no relation to a property at all, I suppose, or a particular group of tenants, then it's not really a maintenance request. But I suppose like if you just know you want to replace a water heater next month, then you could put that in, and you're going to have to notify your tenants anyway, about a plumber coming over to deal with it. So you can do that. So cool.
All right, here's a question from Raul. Does Cozy directly connect landlords with maintenance pros?
Yes, so that was also a feature request that we've been getting since we launched this feature. So no, not yet, but we are actively pursuing partnerships. And so the maintenance pros, the ones we mentioned at least in this presentation about Home Advisor, Angie's List, all that I assume that's what you're talking about. So if you need a plumber, can you find them in Cozy? And the answer is no, not right now, but we realize there's a need for it. So that would make it really nice, right? I mean, the whole big picture is for you to be able to find this and deal with this maintenance tracking or maintenance request, and then be able to assign somebody to it. So we're working on it, but thank you.
All right, here's a question from Sheila, and I think you kind of already touched on it, but I think it'd be good to clarify. Can you send a message to all of your tenants? So routine maintenance or things you want to notify them all about, like your vacation schedule, for instance.
Yeah, so yes, so if you whenever you fill out this maintenance thing, it just goes to all the tenants in that unit. So there's no way to notify all of your tenants across the board because that's not really a maintenance issue. I mean, this is a maintenance tracking tool, but we have seen people use it in that capacity where you do use it as a notification tool, I suppose, and that's it. It has nothing to do with maintenance. It's pretty neat to watch people and see how they're using the tool differently than what we expected. But if anything, it has proven the need to be able to have some sort of internal communication tool where you just pick a unit, pick a property, or pick everybody, and you say, I just want to send this message. So we're actually looking at building something like that for 2017, or 2018. I'm sorry. But good question, and it's totally related.
All right, here's a question from Tyler. Is there a plan to have maintenance request notifications sent through text? Are people just reading your mind, Lucas?
I guess so. So text messaging, yes, that's going to be an updated version of this. So of course, like, you know, if you get a maintenance ticket or maintenance request that's like, hey, there's a leak, like, yeah, maybe they should have been calling you in the first place because there's now water in the basement, but in case they didn't, you want to be notified really quickly. And yes, we are actually in the process of building some sort of text notification feature for this. So it's actually a bigger holistic approach that we're taking because we have a lot of notifications in Cozy. Notifications like, hey, your renter just deposited rent, or you know, they paid their deposit, or your lease is ending, or things like that. So there's a couple other notifications that would really be useful as a text message. So yeah, I mean, we're looking into that, and that's certainly on the roadmap for the near future. So it really applies to maintenance, I think.
All right, next question. Both Rex and Jenny asked this. Do your tenants have to be using Cozy Payments to use the maintenance request feature?
Oh, okay. Yeah, good question. So they have to be in Cozy. So your tenants have to have an account, and if they've applied to your property, or they're paying rent, or they've been screened, or anything like that, they already have an account. And they just have to be assigned to an active lease. So if they're in your property and you're using Cozy for some sort of payments with any of those tenants on that lease, then any of the other tenants can also submit and handle maintenance requests. So yes, they have to be on a lease in Cozy, and it doesn't mean that particular tenant actually has to be paying rent, if that makes any sense. So, for example, if you have a roommate or a house that's got 4 roommates, but only one of them is responsible for paying the rent, but they're all on there, they can all see it, they're all active participants or whatever, you know, inside Cozy, they all can submit maintenance requests. But there does have to be an active lease, and what that means in Cozy, that at least one person is actually collecting rent or paying rent. So good clarification. Thank you for asking that.
All right, here is a question from Scott Reif. Hey, Scott, nice to, hey. I don't normally say last names, but I just did. Scott asks, can you make a handout we can give tenants on how to submit the request? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, good question. So we could make a handout. We also have a help guide. So we have a whole section of, let's go find that. So here, actually this is the maintenance request page on Cozy. If I go and I look up helpdocs.cozy.co, we will, if we haven't already, we will add maintenance request sections here. And what I found the best thing to do is honestly just send your tenants there. Like if you want a printout, you could print out the page, but if you'd rather just point them to a URL for them to read, and you know that's always going to be updated, you could do that too. So that would be my suggestion. I always just point my tenants to this page and let them play around. I actually want them to be familiar with how Cozy works and know that they can self-serve themselves and get the answers they need, because I don't always want them coming to me for technical issues or problems that they might think are with the product itself. So they can figure that out here with a lot of these videos and a lot of guides. So good question. And the pages that we'll have there for maintenance will be very similar to probably what you would give them.
All right, here's a question from John. Why is Yelp not listed in the service providers list?
Good question. So it wasn't intentional. I've used Yelp a lot, but I also find that Yelp is a little bit polluted. I don't know how to say that, but in the same way that Craigslist for many cities got a little spammy, Yelp is starting to get that way, in my opinion. So Yelp doesn't necessarily verify everybody, and they don't guarantee quality, and so you'll find businesses on Yelp that didn't ever want to be on Yelp, and they don't know why they're on Yelp. Whereas if you find businesses on Angie's List or Home Advisor, that business wants to be there and they actively pursued it. So they often pay a fee to be on there, and it's just a simple screening technique. It's like, okay, this is a real business. So Yelp is good. I mean, take a look at Yelp and look around and call, and you do what you want, but there's other tools out there that are completely free to use, and they tend to screen a little bit better. So that's just my opinion.
All right. Here's a question from John. Will the landlord be able to see the description of the problem when the email alert comes in, or can it only be seen upon logging into Cozy?
Yeah. So Maggie, did you have any emails that you wanted to show?
Yeah, I would
All right.
absolutely.
Let's do that. I'll change it over to you. Cool.
Bear with me 1 second.
Yep. There you go. Okay. Perfect.
Okay, I'm opening a few screenshots of some different sample messages, and I will show those to you now.
Okay. I don't see your screen.
All right.
There we go.
Okay, so if you, as a landlord, decided you'd like to submit a request to your tenant or log a request, this is what your tenant would see. They would get an email saying your landlord has submitted a new maintenance request, and it will have the address of their unit. So it will have a summary of the landlord's name, the date it was submitted, and the issue subject line, and the description that you've given it. And so they would be able to go into Cozy, and they'd be able to see that page we were showing earlier where they could track it all. I've also got another one of what it looks like if a roommate submits a maintenance request. So your tenants would see that their roommates have submitted a request. And I find this personally very helpful because there's been instances where I will have, the right hand doesn't always talk to the left hand, and I have all of the tenants contacting me about it, and I really need just one point of contact, and it just makes communication a lot easier. So this is a really nice way to have all your tenants looped in. Although emails, you'll notice, are very similar formatted, you can see this one is actually one that Lucas recently sent about announcing a maintenance request, and he actually used that through Cozy and just sent his tenants a note. So you'll see that it will have the description, subject line, and then anytime you want to reply to that message, or your tenant wants to reply to that message, they'll just click this view maintenance request and be able to reply to you right then, and then you can go back and forth with communication. All right, back to you, Lucas.